Hello and welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm an astrologer, a writer, and a card reader. And as you've seen from my welcome video, this is my very first ever YouTube video. So I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so glad that you were able to join me. I'm going to go ahead and what my goal for this channel is to do card readings for for self-reflection, perspection, and just overall health. I like to read symbols to help with everyday problems and find solutions. And what I would like to do is on this channel I will be hosting readings twice a week, on Tuesdays and on Saturdays. Tuesdays, I'm going to start with a series, what I call my How to Tarot series. What I would like to do is every Tuesday, I will pull a card from the traditional 78 card tarot, and I'm starting with the major arcana. And with each card, what I'll do is a brief description of the symbols in the card to kind of both learn how to tarot and also just get refreshers for, the symbolism in the cards. After we've gone over some of the general themes in the imagery, I will do a card reading based on 3 piles with that card. So you'll see here that we're starting today with the Fool, and there'll be three piles that I will draw cards for, both tarot and oracle. I'll draw the tarot cards from the same deck that the Fool card that you've chosen was drawn from, and then we'll do a card reading. If you prefer to jump straight to the reading itself, you are welcome to do so. I will put a timestamp where you can just go straight to the pile that you choose. Before we do the reading, I will show you the 3 piles, and they'll each have a stone. I do ask that you just kind of choose from your instinct. There's, when you look at a pile, you might either like the imagery or of the art style, or maybe you're drawn to the stone, or just something about that pile is kind of, you gravitate towards it. That's a very good indicator that that pile or that reading would have a message for you. Sometimes you might be pulled towards more than one pile. That happens to me. Sometimes it's like a 30-70 split, and what that usually means is the one that you're strongest, that you're most drawn to might carry a few extra messages for you, and then the pile that you're less drawn to might have 1 or 2 messages that still resonate. So feel free to watch all 3, watch just the one that you're drawn to, whatever you're comfortable with. So today I'm going to go ahead and start with the how to tarot. And one other thing that we do is when we pull these piles, we're going to talk about how that theme expresses itself in your life. So how do you fool? And as this is my first ever card reading, we're going to see today how I fool. So, and again, I'm so grateful that you're here. So to begin, I have 3 different decks. This is the traditional Rider-Waite Smith, and what that is that's the most typically used tarot in the deck. It's by Rider-Waite and Pamela. The artwork is by Pamela Smith. Another really popular deck is the Morgan-Greer. This is one of my favorite decks because this is actually the one that I learned on. So of course that had to make a representation. So we have the Fool from that deck, and then the last deck we have is the Art of Tarot by Liz Dean. And this is also a very, this is a good starter deck, but it has a lot of symbolism. And to jump right in, the most common expression of the Fool is, we'll start with the Rider-Waite Smith, but the Fool is, in traditional tarot, the Fool is the beginning of the story. And as you see here, it's kind of interesting. The Fool actually doesn't even, it's the first card of the major arcana, but it doesn't even have a number. It has it's actually the number 0, which is not a number, but it is the beginning of the story. And actually in traditional tarot, they say that the Fool is, if you believe in reincarnation, and even if you don't, the Fool represents your fledgling spirit coming to earth in its corporal form. So it's very childlike in that perspective. It's saying, okay, the spirit has taken a body and it's here on earth, and it just contains in it all of its enthusiasm. It has all of its innocence. It has all of its drive and ambition in the very altruistic and innocent sense. You're starting off on the journey. So of course the Fool really represents, beginnings, fresh starts, doing something with vigor, with just this this energy of a child. And what you'll see here is what's really beautiful about the imagery is that you see this person who is very childlike. He's almost jester-esque with the way that he's dressed. He has a red feather in his cap, and you talk about, putting a feather in your cap, that old traditional saying, and then he has everything in the world that he has is in that little satchel. And later, in the story, we'll learn that the satchel actually contains the 4 elements that you'll see in the minor arcana, which is the pentacle, the sword, the wand, and the cup. So he has everything he has, carrying on that stick on his back. Now, one other element that's always very prominent is that flower in his hand. White represents innocence, and the flower basically represents the purity that he's taking out into the world. Another symbol that you see a lot of is the dog. The dog is in just about every single Fool card that I've ever seen. And when you think about it, the dog is most loyal, and he is also of a light color, so an innocence, a purity. Also, the fact that dogs are man's best friend. They are also, they're loyal, and you notice that dogs, like cats or really any animal, have an excellent instinct about them. They are a good judge of character. If they like you, they're there for you. If they are apprehensive about you, then that's usually an instinct that is spot on. There's a lot of just to say they know what's right and what's wrong. And when you talk about starting off on a journey, there's no more incredible symbolism. Now, the interesting thing is in some decks you see the dog kind of not really nipping at his feet, but kind of gently pulling on his boot, and that's kind of like saying, don't jump off that cliff, or it's a little bit of higher guidance to say, that even though they're starting off on a journey that can be very dangerous, they know what to do. Like they know that everything's going to be okay. One other thing that I think is really interesting about this deck, and this is the Liz Dean deck, is that all Fools are kind of stepping off a cliff. And you'll see in the traditional representation, he's stepping off the cliff, or he's about to, and he's, pretty unaware. He's looking at the sky and not really paying attention. Everything about him is golden. You can see here the cape of his cloak, of his tunic, almost looks like wings. And then everything is real warm. It's all red and golds, and even the background behind him, you have the sun. And in Lenormand and in other representations, mountains means challenge. But here the challenges are behind him and they're lower than him. So it's almost like he rises above them, or they're behind him. And even though he's about to step off on this cliff, it's like he knows. There's a really great saying, I believe it's a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. that says, take the first step and the staircase will appear. And it's quite a Christian quote as well, which means that just trust that, God and the universe is there. And even though you may not know where you're going, even though it may not seem that you know where you're going, your path, you will get where you're meant to go, and it's in conjunction with the guidance of the universe, and of good friends. This is actually a card from the deck Archetype. Archetype card by Carolyn Myss. And this is really, I really love these cards because they give descriptions of certain archetypes. She provides both a light and dark attribute. And what I thought was interesting is she did actually have one called the Fool. And the light archetype is fearlessly revealing emotion, helping people laugh at its absurdity and hypocrisy. And that is what a fool does. It's very altruistic. And actually, when you're on a fool's journey, or if you're starting something new, I think it's interesting that, sometimes this is a very innocent kind of perspective. It's vulnerable is what it is, if you had to assign a word. And when you're vulnerable, you're susceptible, right? So you might, when you're in a fool's energy, or if you're, people might say, gosh, that's too innocent. You're gonna get hurt. You're gonna, don't jump off that cliff. But I think the light attributes is, you fearlessly reveal your emotion. You say, okay, I'm going out in the world. I'm excited about this. And my mom calls it being stupid like a child, but she means it in like a beautiful way. She means having that completely open-hearted, experience. And you don't get many of those in life. It's a beautiful thing. You feel like a child again. And then helping people laugh at absurdity and hypocrisy. And that's really what the Fool does too. I think the Fool keeps it on such a simple level that I think as adults we overcomplicate things sometimes. And so, seeing the Fool when something has gotten, overburdensome is it's a good sign. Now, the shadow attributes, and, we want to make sure that we recognize them too. That would be the Fool in reverse, is using humor to wound rather than to liberate, and denial of your emotional truth. And that is emotional truth. When you talk about emotional truth, that's what he's doing, right? He's ready to fly. He's ready to fly. And if you ever see the Fool in reverse, or if you ever see a card like blocking the Fool, then like at cross purposes, or kind of going against it, that might mean that something is blocking your emotional truth, that something is getting in the way of that innocence that you really are allowed to have. And yeah, so these are three of my favorite Fool decks, and so that is, that's the descriptors of the Fool. And it's a wonderful card. It's probably one of my favorite cards. It's definitely something to get excited about, that flower in his hand, Yes, and so that is just a few basics about, the symbolism of it. This is the Morgan-Greer card, and this is one of my favorite decks, and also has the red feather. Red means, passion or, enthusiasm, and then feathers mean protection. He has the white flower and the dog. And what's different about this card is the fact that the Fool has the crown, which is like kind of a Julius Caesar thing, but usually it's the crown of laurel leaves, I believe. And what that is that means victory. So I really like that representation of the Fool, because it basically means, he's just starting out, and he knows he'll be victorious. So that's a great interpretation of the Fool. But yes, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and set these out where you can see them. I moved my plant where he's not in the way anymore. Let me move this where you can see. And let's go ahead and just choose a pile. Again, I will also put in the picture of it so you can see it closer. Pile 1 will be the Rider-Waite Smith Fool. Pile 2 is the Morgan-Greer Fool. Pile 3 is the Liz Dean Fool. And go ahead and choose your pile, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with, let's start with our traditional Rider-Waite Smith. So that is your card. And let's go ahead and let's see how you fool. So what we're doing is we're gonna ask the cards, how does the Fool manifest in your life? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I am gonna shuffle the cards on camera. Please let me know if you prefer pre-shuffling. I can do that as well. I might hold a opinion poll to see about that. But okay, so let's just ask, okay, how does pile 1, how does the Fool manifest for pile 1? Okay, very interesting. All right, let's go ahead and get your oracle cards. I'm just gonna pull, okay, 2 wanted to come out, 2 wanted to come out. And 1 more. And, ooh, okay. Wow, okay. Awesome, I'm really excited about how quick. Now, what's inside here are what they call story cubes. They're basically just story dice. They have different symbols on them, and I have different variations of it. This is a bag that I created, and I sew. So I hand make bags. If you are interested, these bags will be available in my Etsy shop, and I can provide the link down below. But I'm gonna go ahead and pick 1 dice, and we're gonna go ahead. All right, okay, very interesting. Okay, so pile number 1, how do you fool? Well, to begin, I believe that the way that the Fool, let me just kind of get an idea here. Okay, very interesting. Well, to start off, I feel like you manifest things very to an extreme sometimes. I definitely see her with the Ace of Swords. I'm sorry, the Knight of Swords. This is the guy who is not afraid. He's the fastest knight in the deck. He's the action guy, and Swords is very mental. It's very verbal. So I do see that you are not afraid. You are not afraid to take action, especially with words. You like to stand up for people, sometimes to the extent that you might wear yourself out sometimes. This is definitely a card of sometimes taking on too much. This might be an indicator that sometimes that you might take on the burden of other people unnecessarily. Like you might help so much that you take the chores of somebody else. And really, it's good sometimes to put things down. Like it's definitely okay to take a break sometimes, but definitely you have a very full heart. This speaks to me of just overabundance. You're a very caring, a very giving person, and so the way that the Fool manifests for you, the way that you do things or the way that you start things is very wholeheartedly. You go in without any fear. You say what needs to be said. You do what needs to be done. Sometimes you take on a little too much, but you do it with a very open heart. Here I can see with your oracle cards that you're a great healer. That you definitely, I think in seeing this, you do not like to see anyone struggle, and you don't like to see anybody in pain. You would take on more yourself than rather allow that to happen to someone else. And I also get a sense of great commitment, because these 2 cards really speak of love. And one thing I noticed is she's carrying a white flower. Look at that. Oh, see, synchronicities are wonderful. So you see there, she has this white flower in her hand, and what does the Fool carry? He carries a white flower, and every single picture, that's what he carries. So I think when you commit to something, you are dedicated to it. So what I see is that I'm not saying that you commit to anything lightly, but when you do it wholeheartedly, and you really you stick it out. You don't give up on anything. That, and I see that this really speaks to me of hope. It also says that you have, just like the Fool has, you know, this kind of wellspring of love to give. I'm sorry, my camera's not focusing, but has a wellspring of love to give. I think you do too. Now there's just two things here that kind of speak to me. Is in the archetype cards, you got the student, which is humility and devotion to knowledge, openness to lifelong learning. And the shadow attribute would be arrogance in the pursuit of destructive knowledge, unwillingness to translate knowledge into action. So what I'm seeing here is that, just like the Fool, you love to learn. Everything is new. You never, I can definitely see you as being the type of person who does not like to be, not necessarily bored, but you don't like things getting stagnant. You always want to continue learning, and that's a really beautiful thing. That contributes to a really, you know, fulfilling life when you go out in the world and you constantly learn. Now, the other card that wanted to come out with this, and these two came out together, so I'm going to read them together, but is the trickster. And I don't want you to be alarmed by that, but the trickster, so the light attribute, is transcending convention, stuffiness, and predictable behavior. So that means that you are the different one. You don't, when people start getting stodgy, you're the breath of fresh air, right? You bring in the new. And then when I see this together, you know, and then the shadow attribute of a trickster is manipulating others through duplicity, which just means, you know, taking advantage of others. Here, I don't think that that's describing you. What I am seeing here, and definitely that I'm seeing with this, is that you take on a lot. And just like we said, that the Fool can be very vulnerable because he is so innocent, he is so, you know, loving and giving. He can fall prey to tricksters, and especially when you're a student or when you love to learn. When you go out into the world, I think that's just a little bit of caution to say, you know, make sure that you're not getting any lemons in life. That, you know, if someone, you know, promises you to teach you something and then they take your money and run, you know, just be cautious that, you know, there are people out there in the world who will, you know, try to take advantage of your good nature. And, you know, it might leave you carrying more than you should at times. And but basically, the way that you Fool is really a beautiful thing. When you commit, you're a lifelong learner. You love and you commit to people. And I just think it's so cool that she's holding that flower, because, wow, you know, yeah, that's what, you know, that's what we do, right? You know, but. And then the last, to wrap up your reading, your dice card is the this little guy here, if you can see it. Let's see, sorry. And what it is you see it looks like he kind of, what I think of when I see this is, have you ever been doing a project and then all of a sudden, you know, like you were hammering something and you missed, and then you hit your thumb and then you scream. That's what I'm kind of seeing, and that, I think that kind of plays into this, because again, you know, you jump. The other thing about the Knight of Swords is he's a fast mover. He jumps head first into things, and definitely if you're the type of person who likes to jump in head first because you're so excited, because, you know, you're ready to grab that cup, but then you later get, you know, you either end up with a sore thumb or you end up with more obligation than you mean to. That might be the side of the Fool that you just want to kind of watch and work with. But everything else is really beautiful. I really love that reading, and you definitely seem like a very healing and a very kind, you know, giving person. So that's awesome. So that was pile number 1, and let's go ahead and get into pile number 2, and we'll keep these together. We'll go ahead and put that there, and we'll put that there. Actually, we'll put that right on top. And all right, so pile number 2, you chose the Morgan-Greer, and I'm not focusing real well. I'm not sure why. Let's try this again. Yeah, you chose the Morgan-Greer. So let's go ahead and pick your piles. And let's put our dice back in there. So let's see. Pile 2, how do we fool? Let's see how pile 2 fools. Ooh, all right. We got 3 cards right off the cuff, so I'm gonna go ahead and take all 3 because I think it's telling us that it wants that. And then let's go ahead and do our archetype. Okay, how does pile 2, how do they fool? Ooh, all right. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and I'm going to use these 2 to describe it. All right, so we'll use those 3 in conjunction. And then let's go ahead and get our last card. How does pile number 2, how do they fool? And the last pile got 2, so I'm going to go ahead and get another one. How does pile number 2, how do they fool? Okay, and then let's go ahead and get your dice. Okay, very interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and see. How does pile number 2, how do we fool? Well, first off, I can see right off the bat, pile number 2, I can tell you're a lover, baby. You are a lover. Mr. Lover. And the Knight of Cups is actually a really fun card. It's actually probably one of my favorite cards because it's again, knights are messengers. And what this knight is doing is he's bringing a message of love. He's bringing his cup. He's bringing his heart to someone, and it's a beautiful thing. And around the 2, I see the 4 of Wands, which is it's almost like it's a card of celebration, but in a way that it's almost like a homecoming. Many readers read this as what they call a twin flame card, or it means 1111. And what it is it's the pillars. It's the home. It is also just the it signifies kind of a marriage. It's almost like it is the celebration of having everything that you want, having the house, committing to somebody, being married, being happy. But it's in a stable, it's almost like all of your work has created this stable foundation for a very, very happy life. And it's the celebration. It's like, a stage in your life where you get to celebrate that. Now here, we have what is probably one of the more feared cards, and I don't want you to be afraid. We read all of the cards together, so it's how we read them together. It's not how they are separately, so don't be afraid. But basically what it's saying is that you can see that the knight is kind of going away from this stability, this kind of established happiness, and going towards the heart that's pierced. And what that kind of means is that the Knight of Cups is also a little bit of the one that wears his heart on his sleeve, where he's not, I wouldn't say that he's easily distracted, but if, of course, in life, when you say, I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, then that person really needs to be the real deal, right? The real deal Holyfield, the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. And what might happen is this does make him a little bit emotionally fickle sometimes. So what the knight might be doing is he might think, oh, okay, I was with this person and it seemed so great, but I saw something over here and let me go towards that. and that thing that he's going towards is heartache, or this thing that he's going to is not going to turn out to be what he thinks it is. It's not going to turn out to be better. And so I think that the way that you fool is that, I think the way that you go through life is that sometimes that, you know, stepping off the cliff is saying, oh, well, I'm going to make an evaluation about this current relationship and go to this different one, and you don't realize that the new one's going to cause you pain, and then you can't go back. The archetype cards that came, these wanted to come out together. It's funny, I associate this card with the Knight of Cups. It's funny, anytime I've read this card before, I've thought, oh gosh, you know, this seems like the Knight of Cups. And what it is it says Prince, and if light attribute is romantic charm and potential for power, and the shadow attribute is using power for self-aggrandizement. So, you know, and self-aggrandizement is, we're saying, okay, well, you know, I'm going to use my charm for negative means, and it's not saying that you are, it's just saying that that's the danger. Every gift that we have, there's a shadow and light side, like, you know, for every positive. So here this is telling us the positive and the negative of the Fool. The positive of the Fool is that you can definitely use your charm to really bring your heart, bring your love to someone else in a very, very grand way. And it does, and it creates a beautiful outcome. It really does. I mean, you have succeeded in getting the Four of Wands. That's not an easy task. But what it is saying is that the shadow side of that might be, you know, you don't want to use that as a power play. Now, behind the Prince is, and again, don't be afraid. We got some scary cards, but they're read together. You have Vampire and you have Don Juan. And what that is Vampire is that, Vampire says, makes you aware that something or someone is draining your life force. And then Don Juan is saying spotlights your positive, seductive qualities. So what that's telling me is, and of course, the downside, the positive side is when you bring so much romance, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to bring love or to bring passion to something. And I can see that. You bring passion to what you do. But the problem is when you bring passion once, it's almost kind of like lightning in a bottle, then you just can't get enough of it. You always want more, or you always have to give more, or if your position is attained by being passionate, then if you're not passionate anymore, or you feel your feelings start to wane, it's like, then what? Am I just done? Just cut me away? Or, what can I do? So in this situation, the way that you fool is definitely the solution, or what they're saying that you can do, is simplicity and leadership. And I thought this was so great. When the leadership card came out, I was so excited. And let me tell you why. Because simplicity is just saying, okay, when I take that card to someone, let me be real clear about it. Let me pare it down. And believe me, I know, when you get excited about something, when you're in love, you want to go full force. You want to jump on that horse and just ride right in. But here it's saying, just be a little scrutinizing. Just be a little scrutinizing. You don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to be hurt, and you don't want to do any power plays on anyone, because a person's heart is the most vulnerable thing. We talked about being a fool, and there's so many love songs that says there's a song that's called "Baby, I'm a Fool." And I'm sorry, I forget the name of the artist, but it's really beautiful, very jazzy song. And it is, putting your heart into something or putting your passion into something makes you very foolish. But the way that you can control it is just being kind of simple with it. And just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy. It just means that you're kind of going slow, and you're saying, okay, what am I promising? What am I bringing to the table? And how am I utilizing this passion? Am I using it for a positive way? The other question is that, the other thing that you would want to ask yourself is that if I do bring this passion, and for whatever reason I need to take this passion away, am I draining anyone? Am I leaving anyone hanging? And if the answer is yes, then you can change that. You can always, you have the power to do what you want. But it is saying that the solution is simplicity. Just either go slow, or, you know, don't make any promises you can't deliver. And what I liked about the leadership card so much, what I thought was just amazing about that, is that here it says using power. The shadow side that you want to avoid is using power for self-aggrandizement, which means using power to make myself look good and make myself look like I'm the best. And here it's just saying, I am a beacon of radiance, support, and love. You see, that is the secret to your Fool. The way that you Fool the right way is, it's not saying you can't bring this love. By all means, bring your love. The world needs passion, but just do it in a leadership way. If you don't necessarily have to give your love to someone, you can give your love to a cause, or, you know, to a goal, and you will be successful, and then you will show others the way. And that's where they're saying that's how you can utilize your Fool energy. Now, your dice card, your dice symbol, I thought was really interesting. If you can see that, it's a person who's playing with dolls. And it's interesting how that came up, because it definitely talked about, you know, there is the term power. There is the term power in 2 or 3 of these cards. Using power, using of power for romantic attraction. So here, I see that as someone who, you have a lot of power, almost like marionettes on a string. You have a magnetism about you, and you have the ability to really inspire people. You can encourage people to do things. And with great power comes great responsibility. I'm sorry to quote Stanley. But that's kind of what you have to think of. It's like, I'm sure there are times that you don't even realize how powerful you are. You think, oh gosh, I didn't, you know, it's just like, almost like being super strong. You know, it's like, oh, okay, you know, if a normal person pushed this, it wouldn't move. But if I tap it with my finger, it knocks over. You just kind of think of it that way. Keep it real simple, go gently, and use your power to lead. Use your power to inspire. And that will be how you manifest your Fool in a really good way. Well, I hope that was most helpful, and thank you so much for watching my reading. I really got a lot out of that. You know, thank you so much for letting me read your cards today. And then we've got one last pile. We're here, we're at the end. So, oh, sorry, we'll turn you around, and we'll go ahead and put your stone there. You got the lapis lazuli, by the way. And, okay, we'll go ahead and put your tile there. I didn't put my other person's tile there. If I see it, I'll do it. Okay, and then what we'll do is, so the last pile is the Liz Dean. The Liz Dean, I really love the artwork in her style. What she does is she, you know, she almost has like newspaper kind of multimedia look to hers. But let's go ahead and let's begin with your tarot deck. And let's see, pile 3. Pile 3, how do we Fool? Pile 3, how do we Fool? Ooh. Oh. Did you see? That's one reason I like to shuffle on camera, is you saw that, right? Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, this guy kind of wants to peek out. I'm just going to use this as a descriptor. All right. You got 2 queens. 2 queens. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and do your, okay, how does pile 3, how do they Fool? Ooh, oh, we have a flyer. Okay. Okay, this came up in the reverse, but I'm going to read it both ways. And All right. Okay. Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and get a second one. Okay. Okay. Oh, and your dice. I didn't forget your dice. Okay. Pile number 3. How do we fool? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead. I'm sorry, pile number 1. Next time I will keep your dice out. But so let's see here. Let me go ahead and just pull these energies together. Okay. Well, to begin, I'm definitely getting a sense that security is something that's very important to you. We have the Ace of Pentacles, and we also have 2 queens. We have the Queen of Pentacles, and we have the Queen of Wands. So we have, 2 beautiful queens here. Now, the Queen of Pentacles, she is a very practical queen. She's very fiscal. She's the one who balances her checkbook, but she's also the one who really nurtures people in a very nuanced way. She makes sure that, if you have your favorite Cheerios, that, everything is financially taken care of, and that all the creature comforts are taken care of. The Queen of Wands is a beautiful, I always kind of refer to her as the movie star card, because she's very beautiful. She kind of likes a little bit more of the finer things in life, like she might like clothes or cars, or just kind of more. She is the confident queen. She definitely knows her own power, and she's also very spiritual. She's very creative. And then what we have here is we have an Ace of Pentacles, which is the beginning. It's kind of like the seed of a situation. And then we have the Moon. And the Moon is about hidden emotion. It's about emotions things that are not revealed. It can be about churning emotions or things that are occurring below the surface. And what I'm kind of seeing here is that we got the attic in the reverse. And again, I've told other piles, please don't get alarmed if you see something that looks like a negative card. We read all of the cards together, and this card definitely came out in the reverse, which means that it's kind of like the opposite of what it's describing. The light attribute of the addict is that it helps you recognize and confront addictive behavior. The shadow side is that you compromise integrity or honesty, allowing addictive pattern to have authority over you and your spirit. And so when I see here, I see 2 women, when I see, letting something have authority over someone's spirit. A Queen of Wands is very spirited. The Queen of Pentacles also has a very nurturing spirit. And what I kind of see there is that what it might be indicating is that you might have a lot of fears right now with the Moon, or the way that you fool or the way that you venture out in the world might be kind of, it might be the more traditional fool where you kind of don't know what's going to happen, so you just kind of, have you ever just jumped into the pool and don't know what's going to, how you're going to land? I see that the manifestation of this type of fool is kind of like let me just go out into the world and see what happens, but there is a little bit of a fearful energy out of it. The way that you manifest the Fool is not as peaceful as other manifestations. Now, this could indicate that there's 2 women in your life that kind of might impact your ability to do new things. That could be, could be a mother, it could be a sister, it could be, this could represent yourself if you're female. But the way that I'm definitely just kind of reading it is, when you endeavor to do new things, when you endeavor to create the foundation of something, which is the Ace of Pentacles, there's a lot of fear surrounding it, and there definitely seems to be, the other card that came out was Saboteur. And what I see is, highlights your fear of self-empowerment, and it changes you and the changes it would bring to your life. So what this is telling me is you have an immense ability to manifest. I see manifestation. Rhonda Byrne, The Secret, talks about how if you imagine that you have something, that you're grateful for it, it will come to be. Like the universe will bring it to you. You just, also gratitude. When you're grateful, the universe will bring you more. And what I'm seeing here is that I'm seeing two very dynamic women, but underneath I'm seeing cards that say self-sabotage and addiction. Now, addiction can be, you can, like, for instance, you can be, the way that I kind of read it is that you might, it might be an addiction to self-sabotaging. It might be the negative self-thought, and again, the moon, just all this fear, like, oh gosh, how am I going to do this? This will never work out, or I'll never have enough money, or, I can never do this. I'm not smart enough. That's when you become addicted to the negative thought of that. You could have an idea, oh, okay, I want to start this business, or, oh, I want to go on YouTube, or, oh, I want to start, sewing bags for Etsy. Whatever it is, if you do not believe that you can do it, either that, or if it's been so long in your head, if you told yourself for so long, oh, okay, I can't do this, then it's, unfortunately, you're not allowing it to manifest. And what it's telling me is that the way that you Fool is, you have the full ability to do what the Fool does. If you went to start something, it would, it would manifest for you. But what I'm seeing is that there's either self-thought, that either, oh, I can't do it, or there's other underlying fears. And the two cards here, I think, really back this up, because it's saying, the first one says silence. I am serene no matter what is occurring around me. So here, and you see it has the moon in it. It has a crescent moon. And I really believe that that's just saying, okay, just breathe. Just breathe. Just like we said, take the first step and the staircase will appear, believe me, the other thing is, when you're a real practical person too, oh, believe me, all this new age, woo-woo of, oh yeah, let me just imagine that I live in a mansion and then tomorrow I'll be in a mansion. No, I know it's hard to believe, especially when you're a very practical person. But it's just saying, it's kind of saying, silence your mind, don't. If you're feeling freaked out about it, then just breathe. Just breathe. And again, they call it a purchase order when you use creative visualization. If you imagine what you want and imagine that you're grateful for it, and then just let the thought go. Don't try to control how it comes to you. Don't doubt it. When you try to control, or when you try to doubt, it puts static. It's almost like a radio wave. It puts static, and it makes it slows down, the universe's ability to bring it to you. So what I'm seeing here, though, is that definitely don't self-sabotage, quiet your mind. And this is a really powerful card because it says journey. It's voyages. In Lenormand, the ship means journey. And it says, I am safe, and I am loved wherever I am. And I really love that message, because it just basically says, wherever you are, however much money you have in your pocket, or, just, try, just try to be grateful because you are okay. Remember how we said with the Fool, you're okay. Wherever you are, don't fear about anything. Don't scare yourself. Be practical. And it also means kind of shine too. The Queen of Wands definitely says that you have a really magnetic, beautiful, bright personality, and you have gifts. You have gifts that you can give to the world. And, it wants you to do that. Hi again. I'm so sorry. Again, this is my first video, so we did get a little cut off, but I'm going to go ahead and we didn't lose much footage, so I'm going to get back in track with what we were talking about. So we were talking about how negative self-thought, or just thinking that you can't, or being afraid of the outcome, that can really affect the way that you are manifesting your Fool energy. And to prevent that, to really be in that Fool energy, just try to watch your thoughts. We had for your dice, if you look at that there, it looks like a shirt that's out on a clothesline, and I thought that was really neat. At first I was kind of thinking along the lines of appreciating the little things in life, where and as I was saying in Rhonda Byrd's The Secret, if you appreciate the little things in life, then the universe will send you more. And sometimes little things like doing the laundry or doing the dishes, they seem like little menial daily domestic things, but when you really say, oh, okay, I appreciate these dishes, I appreciate having dishes, I appreciate having a roof over my head, having a cabinet, having nice things. If you appreciate everything that you have, the universe will give you more. Now, one other interpretation that I had of the dice was, maybe one solution is, when you look at the moon, that is a very bottled up kind of energy. The moon can mean all of your deep desires. It can mean things that you hold that are in the unconscious. And if you really are working with someone else, if this does involve, or when you Fool, if you do have deep desires, or if there's a cooperation that you need to have with someone else. Also, one other interpretation, just to put it out there, is that this could be two sides of your own personality. You could have a very practical side that says, oh, I need to save money. And then you can have this real spirited side of yourself that says, but I want to start this new business. I want to do this. I want to do that. But it seems really frivolous, if I don't know where the money's coming from, or if you're afraid, we said at the beginning of the reading of, lacking security. So a lot of self-confidence is required. You definitely want to appreciate the little things in life. You also want to watch the negative self-talk. And the last thing I can think of is that if your journey, or the way that you Fool, if it involves cooperating with other people, and if you have the moon and the clothesline, what I'm kind of thinking there is just, there might be moments when the way that you kind of release your Fool, or the way you let your Fool out into the world, might be by airing out the dirty laundry. I know that sounds a little funny, but that's kind of what I think of when I see the sun and I see the clothesline. Because when you think about it, it's like, okay, your unconscious is full. This water sometimes isn't the clearest. It's a lot of emotional, it's a lot of subconscious things that you really are afraid of, that you're worried about, that you don't show to people. And sometimes the solution, or the way that you can kind of free yourself and let yourself be that Queen of Wands, let yourself be that Queen of Pentacles, might be just by letting the sun air all of your laundry. Go out into the world and just when necessary, you know, doesn't have to be in every situation, but just say what you really think, or tell, if you are working with someone else closely, tell that other person what you're scared of. 9 times out of 10, no one is going to judge you for saying, well, I'm worried about ABC. And maybe you'd be surprised if this is another person, that this other person might come to you and say, well, I've been feeling the same way, or what can I do to help you feel better? And then the other side of it would be, you know, definitely, you know, appreciating the little things. You know, appreciating the little things is very important. And I think here it's just saying that you are worthy of more. You do have gifts to give. You know, don't sweat the small stuff, and definitely just imagine that you have what you want, and it, you know, just like you fool, you know, it will happen. You know, just don't doubt it. You know, just live it, and, you know, it'll manifest for you. Well, wow, you know, when I started this reading, I was so scared. I thought for sure that I wouldn't have anything to talk about. And here I am, and I talked a lot. But I hope that you found it insightful, and I hope there were messages there that gave you peace and were helpful. Again, I do the How to Tarot every Tuesday, and so I will be doing this next Tuesday with the next card, which is the Magician. The Magician will be next Tuesday, and this Saturday I will be posting our weekly energies video. It is very similar to this, except we'll be just talking about your current energies from Saturday to Saturday. Also, as the season progresses, I will be throwing in a few extra videos on different days. Halloween falls on a Thursday this year. Also, you know, there'll be other kind of fun pop-up themes as well. Please let me know what you thought by commenting below, and if you are so inclined, please comment, and or please subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notices of when I post the next video. And thank you so much for being here, and see you next time. Bye-bye.